I literally just finished a vlog like 20 seconds ago, and now we're starting another one. So welcome to today's vlog. I've never done this topic before, but I'm going to be finishing my TBR in today's video. If you guys saw my March wrap-up April TBR video, I picked 5 books to read during the month, and I'm honestly kind of proud of myself because I finished my TBR in March, so I'm trying to do that this month as well with this video. Now, just to recap my TBR in case you didn't watch the video, which I'll link it down below if you haven't, but I picked 5 books, right? So the first one I picked was The Final Offer by Lauren Asher. I read this in last week's vlog, so check that one off the list. I also picked I technically picked the Flock series, but I picked the spin-off book, and then in hindsight I realized I had to read the Flock series first. So I swapped One Last Rainy Day for Flock Book 1, and I finished that also in this month, so check that one off. So the other 3 books that I have left are Beartown by Frederick Bachman. I got this one at Barnes a couple weeks ago, and I'm so excited about this. Jasad Heir by Sarah Hashim, or is it Sarah? Oops. I'm gonna say Sarah Hashim. I may be butchering it, but this is a fantasy book by her, also my TBR. And then the last one is The Picture of Dorian Gray, which I actually don't have with me right now, but it's at my childhood home, and I'm going back for Easter this weekend, so I will get it then. But yeah, that's my TBR for April. So 2 of the 5 books are already completed, and 2 of the 5 books I've actually already started. I started Frederick Bachman a couple days ago. I only got like 20 pages in. I am not far at all, and I'm actually not gonna be picking up this one next because I'm really in the mood for a fantasy. So I've heard really good things. I know it's great, I know it's emotional, but this is not gonna come first. Instead, I picked up Jasad Heir last night, and I'm currently 80 pages in. 89? Yeah, 89 pages in. And this is going so well. So let's talk about it. This follows our main character, Sylvia. Sylvia is a jasad, which is someone who is from Jasad. And by the way, there are a lot of names and kingdoms in this world, and it's also completely based off of Egyptian mythology. And I'm not Egyptian, nor am I very versed in that kind of mythology, so I may be butchering a lot of these names, and I'm gonna try my best. But that kingdom was burned down like 10 years ago. And she was actually the daughter, I think it's like essentially the princess. Like she was the heir to the throne, but she escaped while her family perished, right? So now she is living in this new kingdom called Omal, and she's hiding as just a regular non-magic person because anyone who has magic is immediately arrested and basically taken to be executed. So she is living her life trying not only to hide her identity as the heir, but also just to hide her identity as someone with magic in general. Very solid basic plot, right? I'm trying to see what the back says so I don't spoil anything that I've already read so far, because I think that this is a very fast-paced plot and I'm already like so invested only being 90 pages in. So it says in the back that Sylvia is forced to make a deal with her greatest enemy and help him hunt the rebels in exchange for her life. Now, the enemy she's talking about here is Aaron, who is the heir of a different kingdom being called Nizal, I believe. And his kingdom is known for being the ones that destroyed her kingdom, Jasad. So she obviously has a lot of animosity towards him, towards his father, his family. However, she's being forced to work with him in this plot. And I'm not sure to do what yet, but even if I did know, I wouldn't tell you because it's probably a spoiler. It just says to hunt the rebels. So generally, that's what we're doing here. I feel like it took so long to explain that, like a roundabout way, but this is so good so far because the author recognizes that we're not idiots. She recognizes that we've read a fan row before and we know kind of the general plot that's going to happen, because I feel like this book isn't giving you all the facts directly. They're letting you put the pieces together and make inferences about what's happening. For example, her grandparents, Sylvia's grandparents, I think were the leaders of Jasad, and they were the ones, or Jasad, why am I like messing up the pronunciation? And they were the ones that like burned up in the fire and the destruction first, right? Well, she never told us the names of the grandparents. She just talks about her grandparents dying and then talks about these 2 named people going up in flames. And as readers, we make that connection of, oh, those were her grandparents, etc., etc. I feel like at the beginning it's a little difficult because we are just dropped into this world with a lot of names, a lot of kingdoms, a lot of like references that even if you are familiar with Egyptian mythology, I don't even know if you'd catch all of them because again, there are also names in here that we don't know. But the author knows that we're smart, we can pick up, we can catch up, and through the course of 90 pages, I feel like I've absorbed so much of the world, so much of the story already. I appreciate that she allows us to make those connections on our own rather than just info dumping us like so many other fantasy books do, and like giving us page after page after page of history in a very boring, direct way. Instead, we just kind of understand it as the story goes on and we're just kind of immersed into it, and I love that so far. So writing is really great. We've already met love interest. Obviously, Aaron is a love interest, right? And he is cool. I like him. The man has silver hair, and I'm like, I can get down with that. Like, come on, you know I love Rowan Whitethorn. I can get down with silver hair. And so far, our main character is also very determined, very strong, not only physically, but also mentally, and I really like her so far. So this is going so well. I'm really excited about this book, as well as Beartown, as well as, well, less so, A Picture of Dorian Gray, but I picked it because it was one of my only books under 300 pages, but I am probably going to read that one last. But I will read it. It'll happen. I hope you're excited about this vlog. If you are, subscribe. I post new videos every single Thursday. And let's dive back into Jasad Heir. Hello. Before we get into the YouTube video, I just have a quick little announcement I want to share. I finally bit the bullet and started an Instagram and TikTok account for my book content. I've had accounts for my bullet journaling stuff, for just personal stuff, but I wanted to actually start posting my YouTube shorts that I share on this channel on other platforms, and also just create more like casual, on the flow kind of content. And so yeah, these are finally up. If you are active on these platforms, I would really appreciate it if you went and followed me, supported me. We can chat in the comments, and also I'll do probably like question boxes on Instagram stories, things like that. I'm really excited about these platforms, and I hope you guys are too. So yeah, that's my quick little announcement. Thank you so much, and let's get back to the video. Y'all, we need to talk about this book and about enemies to lovers romances. Everyone is always saying that they want more enemies in the enemies to lover relationship. Like, no enemy is enemying enough. They're always lusting or love at first sight, but just hiding their feelings. Babe, this book, do I think that he's in love with her? Yes, obviously. I mean, who wouldn't be, honestly? She's a badass. I love her. But also, this man, Aaron, has like thrown daggers at our girl, and like, not just to be funny, like, he's hit his target. Like, he stabbed her in the leg, he stabbed her in the arm, he broke her wrist at one point, and she's also slashing at this man too. Like, these people are enemies, but also like, I'm here for it. Like, tell me why. If bad guy, if stabby, why hot? If enemies, why smart and attractive? You know what I'm saying? Like, I've been reading people's reviews about this book because I always am curious to see what people think on Goodreads, you know? And people, honestly, I thought that the reviews for this would be higher. Everyone is giving it like a 3.5 to 4 star, and I'm only halfway through. I'm at like 50%, almost exactly. I hit page 250 this morning. Loving this book. Oh my God, I'm loving this book so much. I think it was a mix of me being in the perfect vibe or in the perfect mood to read a fantasy romance, and also this just being really, really good. But the reviews are just like kind of mid. Like 3.5, 4 star isn't a bad review, but I expected them to be higher. And honestly, I'm like not getting it. Like, babe, this is so good. I'm like eating this up so fast. The plot is great, the characters are great, the world building is great. But honestly, maybe the world building is what's the problem for some people, because When the Moon Hatched is a book that I read last December and gave 5 stars. I'm obsessed with this book, but I gave it to my friend and she didn't love it as much as I did. And a lot of people also have been reviewing it with mixed thoughts, saying that it was too clunky, like the world was too difficult and not explained very well. I get where they're coming from, but also I ate this up. It was so like bingeable in my opinion. I inhaled it in a matter of days, even though it was like 650 pages. And the world building was dense, I understand that, but it was so interesting that I like ate it up. This book is similar. I don't think the world building is as dense, but it's a lot of new terms, new names, new words that are just like thrown at you. And maybe that makes it harder to understand. Maybe people don't like that about books, which is why they're giving it lower ratings, but I appreciate that about a book. I'm realizing, like, I really like when we have a world that we're really immersed in. Like, it's more than just the Egyptian mythology aspect of it, which honestly I should research more about Egyptian mythology to see where the tie-ins are. But just in general, like, I think the characters are so well developed. I think that the little reveals that we get, like, every couple of chapters are so, like, eye-opening, and she'll just drop in a random sentence that makes you think, oh, we're gonna have to come back to that later, bestie, because you just dropped in a nugget of information that I don't think you fully fleshed out yet, but I know that you will, because she's been doing that with every other nugget throughout the rest of this book. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think this is a great debut, and people apparently don't agree with me, but like, if you like my taste in books, maybe you'll like this. So I don't know. I'm enjoying this. like so much. I'm flying through it. You have to get a little bit of the world. You have to introduce other characters, and there is no heavy romance yet because, again, enemies to lovers, they're too busy stabbing each other to fall in love. But give them time. It's gonna happen. I believe it. And I'm just so excited. And I think book 2 in this book comes out later this year. So I'm like, let me get my hands on book 2. I kind of need it immediately. I haven't even finished this yet, but I'm like, I need that immediately because, oh my God, I'm loving this. All right, I got some good news, some bad news, and some more good news. So starting out with the good news. You guys saw this yesterday, but I got Fearless in the mail, people. So excited. I'm wondering what other plot Lauren Roberts has put in this book to make it like 600 pages. Like, this is chunkier than book 1 and 2. I don't know where she's going with this exactly. Now, to move on to the bad news. Unfortunately, well, not even that bad of news. I was just gonna say that I didn't give this book 5 stars because the ending of this book was a little rough, but I did finish the book. So there's that. I finished this last night. I binged like the last 100 pages, and again, not a 5 star. I was a little disappointed by the ending, but our final good news is it was still a really good book, and I still gave it 4.5 stars. I just couldn't get past like the last 50 pages. So I'm not going to spoil anything about this book, but I will say that as a whole, it was such a fun time to read. I honestly flew through it. I read it like 3 days. I was in the mood for a fantasy romance, and this really hit. Although I will say that this is more fantasy than fantasy romance because the romance plot is very subplot material. Like, I think we get maybe 1 kiss in the entire book, which is fine. I assume in the second book we'll get more romance, more plot, stuff like that, but I do think this is heavily politically based. Some trials, things like that. It's less about the relationship. That being said, still such a good time. Our female main character, Sylvia, honestly reminds me a lot of Selena from Throne of Glass in her attitude, in her persona, and I love Selena, we all know this, so I really did attach myself to Sylvia. I think she was a really cool character. I liked Aaron a lot. He was very, I wouldn't even say mysterious, but he's just a very intriguing character, and I honestly have a theory about him that I won't say because it's a spoiler, but I'm wondering if that theory will come true in book 2. Oh, also, this is a 2-book series. It's a duology, which is the perfect length of series in my opinion. I love duologies. I want just a little more from book 1 to stretch into 2 books, but a trilogy is almost too much these days because the amount of series that I'm in the middle of and the amount of series that people are coming out with. I need a duology. So this is perfect because it is just a duology. However, my problems with this book come in the ending. I do feel like the pacing of the entire book was a little iffy. It wasn't even like it was slow because I was eating it up. I was enjoying it, but I would say that there was a lot spent in the middle of this book of like introducing our world, introducing the plot, introducing the past history of what's been happening with these kingdoms, her training, meeting various dignitaries, is that what they call dignitaries, like monarchs and things. And then we finally get into the first of the 3 trials, like right here in the book. I feel it was like kind of late, and then the trials were a little rushed. Now, personally, I am not a big fan of trials in books. I know it's a very popular trope. For me, I think they're overdone. I'm tired of them. But if you're a big fan of trials, this book's trials were interesting, but they were very quick and they were very delayed to the end. So I feel like all of the excitement got ramped up to the end. And then also the very last trial was not only very confusing to read, I was like confused as to what was happening, but it just happened very rushed. I feel like it was just very, very fast paced compared to the medium kind of slow paced towards the middle. And so the pacing was a little like rocky. And then also I would say that the relationship, I even just say like friendship at this point between Aaron and Sylvia was also weirdly paced throughout the entire book. Like enemy, because they were enemies for a long time, and then they become friends, and then all of a sudden she is like thinking like she loves him. I'm like, it just went like this, and then shoop, I was like, oh, okay. You know, I would still say it's a slow burn because, again, they only had like 1 kiss in the entire book, but I would say that her feelings changed very quickly. And the cliffhanger of this, very excited for book 2. I think there are going to be some really cool plot points. I'm very excited about it, but I think that the last like chapter, the way it ended, was a little like, I wanted like one last reveal or something with Aaron at the very, very end, and we didn't get it. Again, I think that there might be something going on with Aaron that happens in book 2. but I don't know. So overall, the ending was a little disappointing for me, unfortunately. But that being said, the whole book was still such an incredible fun time. I really, really enjoyed this. I wanted to give it 5 stars. I just couldn't look past the ending, but I still highly, highly recommend this. And it is this author's debut, so I am positive that like she'll only get better from here. Work out those writing kinks, work out those pacing issues, and I'm sure that the next book in the series and anything else that she writes after this will be chef's kiss. Okay, so it is Friday. I almost forgot what day it was for a second, and I'm back home in Houston, and my sister is here. This is Audrey. Say hi. Hi. So Audrey and I are doing a book swap, so we want to talk about what books we're giving each other. If you guys saw my last video from last week, I talked about how I was going to save a book to give to Audrey to read, and I'm also lending her one as well. So Heartless Hunter is a book that I read last year and gave 4 stars. This is Enemies to Lovers, about a witch and a witch hunter. Everyone loves this series, and I didn't not like it. I gave it 4 stars, but I honestly don't have any interest in continuing this series, and so I was going to unhaul this, but I decided instead of like selling it or giving it away, I would just give it to my sister so she could read it. Yay. So there's one, and then the other one I wanted to lend her. This one's mine still, but I'll let you borrow it. is Powerless by Lauren Roberts. The 3rd book, Fearless, just came out, and I've been talking about it a lot in my recent vlogs because I just received it in the mail. In fact, I received that in this vlog. But this is book 1 in the series, and I wanted to give it to Audrey as well because it's another YA book that I also gave 4 stars when I first read it. So this series I think you're going to really enjoy. So I'm letting her borrow this one as well. But in return, she's also letting me borrow 2 books as well. So you want to talk about those?
Yes. This is the Once Upon a Broken Heart series. This is my favorite series that I've ever read. I just enjoy it. I think this one's better than the Carvel series.
Okay, T.
It's better, and the characters are better, and I think she's really going to enjoy this one. I've been trying to force her to read it for a while. And she's been reading other ones. So this is the first one.
Can you talk about the general plot?
Okay. The main character's name is Evangeline Fox. She loved someone, and turns out he was going to marry someone else. So she was very sad about that, and met a fate who, he's immortal, he's amazing, we love him. They basically go on a little adventure. It's really fun, and it's an Enemies to Lovers. I love this book. This is the first one of 3, and then the second book, which I don't have, what is it called again?
The Dust Jacket?
The Dust Jacket, yeah. I don't have it, I lost it. This is Ballad of Never After. These are both by Stephanie Garber. I think this is my favorite out of the 3. Yeah, I think it goes 2, 3, 1.
I've heard that people don't like book 3, or they don't like the way that it ends, but you like book 3?
I don't like the way that it ends, but it's better than the first one. Okay. This is the one she's getting.
I'm excited. Okay, so those are my reading plans eventually, but as you know, none of these books are on my TBR, and this vlog is about my TBR. So now that I'm home, I got my copy of A Picture of Dorian Gray. It has this very weird looking man on the cover. I don't know if it's in focus or not, but anyway, it's a short book. It's like 200 and... You want to look for me? 213 pages. However, the font is minuscule and the spacing is also tiny. So unfortunately, this is more like a 300-page book because the font is so small. But I've heard only good things, albeit from people who like classics, and I don't think I've read that many, but it's on my TBR, so I'm going to try to read it. And then Beartown eventually. And then also Kingdom of Flesh and Fire before I get to Audrey's books. But I want to read Audrey's books too. So this is probably on my May TBR.
This book does not look interesting.
It's supposed to be funny.
I'm gonna count you on that.
Okay, yeah.
I'm gonna trust you on that.
It'll be a little bit of a challenge, but one that I am up for undertaking. Down to undertake? Up to undertake. I am up for the challenge.
Yeah, that's a better way to phrase it.
I'm gonna go read.
Me too.
She's not going to read. She's going to play Sims. I'm going to try to make this update quick because I feel like I have the tendency to just sit and yap, but I want to talk about Picture of Dorian Gray real quick because it's the next day and I'm halfway through. This book is quite short and it's about 213 pages like we said, so I'm thinking to myself, if I divide it into 3 chunks of 70 pages every day, I can finish it in 3 days. Sometimes when I have a book that I'm not too excited about, I do that, but I'm not gonna lie, this isn't like torture to read. It's not like Flowers in the Attic where I was like forcing myself to get through every page. Honestly, writing, quite interesting. This book was written in like the 1800s, but in case you haven't heard of it before, this book is about technically Dorian Gray, but also Lord Henry and Basil and other various characters. Basically, Dorian Gray is this young man in, I think, England, and he's incredibly beautiful. Like, everyone thinks he's just so gorgeous and angelic and just such a creature to just marvel over, right? And we first see Basil and Henry talking to each other because Basil is an artist and Dorian Gray has sat for a self-portrait, or I guess just a portrait, before before. And so Basil has this drawing or painting that he's done of Dorian, but he refuses to show it in like an art show. He thinks it's too personal. And Henry, who is a very odd character, very much speaks his mind, and I disagree with a lot of the things that he says, but he's talking to Basil about like, who is this mysterious person? And Basil's like, oh, this is Dorian Gray, my friend. And eventually Henry meets Dorian, and the three of them have like a friendship and stuff. Because it is such a short book, I don't really want to talk too much about plot because that would like spoil half the book. But I will say that number one, Oscar Wilde's writing is very beautiful. I'm not always down for like crazy beautiful prose. In order of importance for me, it goes characters, plot, and then writing. But I got to appreciate when someone has really nice writing, and part of it is because it was written in the 1800s, but part of it is also just because I think he has a very humorous style and also a very beautiful style, very descriptive. The thing that is stopping me from liking this book, however, is the unlikable characters. I like Basil, but I don't like Lord Henry very much. I think some of the things that he says I just really blatantly disagree with. And then also Dorian was fine for a while, but then something happened and his character has evolved, and this new persona that he's become is not one that I agree with, at least his opinions. And that is the point of this book, is to have unlikable characters, and I do understand that. And quite often I feel writers write unlikable characters on purpose, I guess to make you think about things, but also just to have a different perspective on things. So I'm not quite sure if Oscar Wilde agrees with everything in this book. I think the things that are bothering me the most, though, is that specifically Lord Henry has imprinted on Dorian a lot of his kind of misogynistic thoughts, and I don't know if it's because of the era that they're in which case Oscar Wilde agrees with it, or if it's simply because Henry is an unlikable character and so he's saying these things to make us not like him, even though even at the time people realized that it was misogynistic and not true. I'm not sure where that line falls, so I'm a little iffy about that. But overall, it's not a bad book by any means. It's going by quicker than I thought it would for its absolutely like minuscule font size. But I also wanted to mention in this, oh my gosh, in this bag, I have, I think, like 10 or 11 books that I'm going to go sell. If y'all watched my last reading vlog, I went and sold a bunch of books at Half Price Books in Dallas, but now that I'm back in Houston, I had a couple of books, well, more than a couple, in my childhood home that I also wanted to get rid of, so I'm going to go to a bookstore today and sell them and hopefully buy a book with the store credit that I get from it. Kind of like a book unhaul, but also these weren't on my shelves in college, but I have The Uglies, Before She Ignites, Fangirl, which I actually read this one. I enjoyed this one, but I just don't need to keep it. I also read The Uglies, by the way, but years ago. City of Embers, Shipbreaker, This Is Where It Ends, The Chess Queen Enigma, I also read this one, The Pretenders, The Colossus Rises, Five Kingdoms, Sky Raiders, and finally, Kingdom Keepers, Disney After Dark. This is a group of, I think mostly, if not all, YA books that I've just had either never read or don't have any use for anymore, and I know that someone else will enjoy them a lot more than I am currently. So I'm going to bring these to the bookstore today. So hopefully I will walk out with something to go home with. You know me, I'm always trying to find ways to get books. My AC is blasting, so please don't mind that, but I have a lot to talk about. Number one, and maybe most importantly, I got some flowers. So are they half dead? Yeah, they are. These are from Easter Sunday yesterday at my church. They have a bunch of flowers that they lay out, and you can take them for free after the service. Unfortunately, this room doesn't get a lot of sun, so they are going to die very quickly. But I mean, it's a pretty color, and they do look pretty even though they're like half wilted. I'm gonna go put this one on my desk real quick. As you can clearly tell, I am back in my dorm room. I drove back from Houston back to college yesterday after Easter Sunday, and I actually finished a picture of Dorian Gray last night. Y'all saw my final reaction to like the last chapter and a half of this, I believe. I listened to the majority of the second half on audiobook during the drive, and I'm not gonna lie, this book is a little whiplashy in my opinion. Like, all of my comments from before still stand on my dislike of some of the characters and how much I do enjoy Oscar Wilde's writing, but I think that sometimes it can be a little pretentious, and I also don't agree with everything that the characters say. Continuing off of that, there was one chapter in here, I don't even remember what number, but on the audiobook it was like 45 minutes long, and I don't think there was a lick of dialogue in the entire chapter. Like, it was all, I think, Dorian's inner monologue, or just talking about what Dorian was doing, and I was so bored. I was like, could this go any slower? I was listening to it on like almost 2 times speed, and I was like annoyed at how long it was. But then on the other side of the coin, it's like his dialogue is so good with the characters. It's witty, it's funny. He can talk about things like art and how life imitates art, and he can talk about like morals and mortality and things like that, and have these bigger discussions within the dialogue that makes it so much more digestible than these long swaths and just extremely long chapters of literally just inner monologue and or just like prose, you know? So in the chapters when there's a lot of talking, really like his writing. In the chapters when it's just him going off for pages about a topic or another, I'm extremely bored. So I was thinking about giving this a 3-star because of the like back and forthness of the second half of the book, but then the very last chapter I thought was really intriguing. I didn't know how it was going to end, and I was really shocked with like, the very last couple of pages. I thought it was a great way to end the book. Like, honestly, really good ending. So because of that, I'm going to give this a 3.5 star. I would not pick it up again, but out of all the classics that I've read, which albeit is not many, definitely not the worst one ever. And I do see why people like Oscar Wilde's writing. I've also read The Importance of Being Earnest by this guy, and I enjoyed that one too. I don't remember when I rated it, but I had to read it for school. And it was another short, fun, well, maybe not fun, but just a witty, quick book. So yeah, that's my thoughts on this one. And that checks off, I think, the 4th book off my TBR, which means we are 80% there, almost done. As far as any other updates, I also want to let you guys know that I went to the bookshop and sold my books, like I told you guys on Saturday. So I got $17 of store credit by selling those books, which is great. And so I bought 2 books. It was so exciting. So I put them on my shelf. And by the way, I don't know if you can really tell if you pay that much attention, but I have reorganized my shelves a little bit last night. I literally left Dallas with 2 books to give my sister, and then I came back with 5. So like, the math ain't math, and I'm trying to save space, but I just keep multiplying with books. There's just more and more, and I honestly shouldn't be complaining, but I have done a little bit of reorganizing. Like, I've been tucking books behind the books that you can see. Some of the ones I'm never going to reach for, I just have them like on the back of the shelf behind the stacks, so I still have them and they still are there, but they're not visible because I'm out of room. These are the 2 books that I picked up at the bookstore. The first one is Legendborn by Tracy Dion. I've heard amazing things about this YA fantasy series. I really don't need to be starting any new series at this point in my life. Like, if you watched my last vlog, I believe it was, I'm just in so many series right now, but I've heard really good things, and this is either the 2nd book or the 3rd book was recently released, so I definitely will have a couple books to catch up on, but again, only heard good things. My friend read it and loved it, so I wanted to pick it up for sure. And obviously, as you can tell by the cover as well, this is a story based on primarily people of color characters. I think the main girl is Black, and that's great because I feel like in a lot of fantasy books, the main girl is always white, and I'm here for diversity in literature, 100%. And then the other book that I got is Gothicana by Runix. This book has so many mixed opinions, so much controversy online, I feel. Some people love it, some people hate it. It's a dark romance between a teacher and a student, which I'm open to trying. I will try pretty much anything as far as romance goes. So I've heard, again, mixed things, but I've heard that the vibes in this are like very dark academia, obviously gothic because like Gothicana, and I'm intrigued. You know, I really want to read it, and it's actually a lot shorter than I thought it was. This is hitting at 380, so honestly not even that long, and I also love the sprayed edges. Comment below, do you guys like plain, like just single color sprayed edges? Because I like them. I think they're very satisfying, but I know some people really hate them, so let me know. But I don't mind them. These are the 2 books that I got. I'm adding them to my TBR shelf, my newly reorganized TBR shelf, that is. And now I think there's only 1 book left in this challenge, and that's Beartown. So let's see if I can finish it before April ends. Hi, hello. It is unfortunately April 28th, so it's been exactly a week since I've talked to you, and I have gotten no further, not a single page further in my April TBR. Now, we still have a couple days left in the month. I mean, it's not the 30th yet, but we're really pushing it. And this entire week so far, after I finished Fearless, and that vlog is already out. But then instead of picking up Beartown, I picked up Gothicana, which is a book that I got in the book haul that I showed you in the last clip, I'm pretty sure. I'm not finished with this book. I'm like 65-70% of the way through it. I'm reading it quite slowly, but that's because I have been sick again this week. So exciting. I was sick a couple weeks ago. Now I'm sick again. I'm kind of getting over it slowly, but because of that, I've been feeling really unwell, especially the last like Thursday, Friday, Saturday last week. And so I've been not really reading and haven't gotten very far in anything. I'm still thinking on these. I do want to read both of these. I obviously want to finish both of them very soon, but I'm nervous about Beartown, and I'm slowly working my way through Gothicana, slower than I would like to be working my way through it. That being said, I don't have a reading update for you yet. I will in a day, I think probably tomorrow, because I'm trying to finish this before the 30th. We'll have to see. But what I do have is a package. This is Aardvark Book Club. They are a book subscription box, and this video is not sponsored. Don't worry. They did send me this box for free. This is a gifted package, but I am not being paid to say anything about them. But I have no clue what books are in this subscription box, so I wanted to do a little unboxing, and we can kind of see together what they sent me. I do want to give a big thank you to Aardvark Book Club, because it was very nice of them to reach out and gift this box to me. Let's take a look. So the first thing I see are these little bookmarks. This is Aardvark Book Club. There's a little aardvark on the top of it, which I assume would like stick out of the top of your book like this with little ears, which is kind of cute. Okay, so the first book in here is called Any Trope But You by Victoria Levine. I have never heard of this before, so let's read the little blurb. Best-selling romance author Margot Bradley has a secret. She doesn't believe in happily ever afters. So she has a chronically ill sister named Savannah, and she's going to stay in a lodge and write her first murder mystery, and then she runs into Dr. Forrest Wakefield, who is a cancer researcher who is at his family lodge caring for his ailing father. Interesting. So this seems like a quick and easy little contemporary romance. Someone who doesn't believe in happily ever afters, I assume, finds her own happily ever after, but we'll just have to see. This is about 300 pages, and the font is pretty big, so a quick read. Okay, well that is book number 1. How cute. The second book is called Flirting with Disaster by Naina Kumar. I've heard of this book. I've never read it before or really heard anyone talk about it. I've just kind of seen the cover. It says, it's been years since Mina separated from her husband, Nikhil. Years since they first laid eyes on each other in their home state of Texas. Years since they spontaneously wed in Las Vegas, and she felt true happiness. Now a high-powered lawyer on Capitol Hill and ready to move on, at least she thinks so, with another successful lawyer shake, Mina has returned to Texas, this time finally to obtain a divorce. Oh, but there's a hurricane and she finds herself trapped with the guy that she once loved. Okay, forced proximity. Another quick and easy one. This is less than 300 pages. And then the last one in here, I think this is yet another contemporary romance. This is called Back After This. This is the cover. Never heard of this one before. So she's starting her own podcast, but the catch is it's about her own dating life, and she has to follow the guidance of influencer and newly minted relationship coach Eliza Cassidy. She has to commit to 20 blind dates of Eliza's choosing, but she can't stop thinking about Will, a photographer she helps rescue a very big and lovable lost dog. Okay, all right. In order of which one I think intrigues me the most, this has to be the least, I think, but I do appreciate them sending this one to me nonetheless. I think out of these two, I probably am most interested with Flirting with Disaster, just because I'm from Texas. I'm very familiar with hurricanes in Texas, but these are really nice, high quality books, lots of really pretty covers, and I really appreciate Aardvark Book Club for sending them to me. Life update, because I'm currently 40% of the way through Beartown by Frederick Bachman. It's been forever since I've been wanting to read this book, and so say that I'm almost halfway through is like crazy. It is the next day, so I've been apparently reading a lot. I finished Gothicana yesterday afternoon, started this last night, and my goal is to read about 100 pages a day, and then I picked up the audiobook when I was driving today, and that has helped me get through a lot of this book way faster, because I'm not gonna lie, the first 100 pages were very hard to get through last night. Not in a way that it's bad, because I really like my AC turned on. Love that. But I really like the writing, and I want to talk about the writing in just a minute. However, it was hard to get through because it's very slow moving, especially at the beginning. It's incredibly character driven, which is lovely, but it took us like 100 pages to get through one day. And then I'm at page 165 and I'm on the second day. So it's like it goes through days very, very slowly, but it's because we're following like 20 plus different characters. Like the book is told in third person, and every couple of paragraphs we skip to a different POV. Sometimes it's the kids that are playing hockey, sometimes it's the other children, sometimes it's the parents, sometimes it's like the general manager, the coach, the sponsors of the club. Sometimes it's random adults that used to be in hockey that still live in this town. Sometimes it's the bartender, like all these different POVs that honestly would not be considered important in any other book, but Frederick Bachman seems to take each character and completely flesh out their story, even if it's just in a couple of paragraphs or a couple of pages. He treats every character, whether it's like a main character or supporting, at the same like main character level, if that makes sense, which I think is really cool. And I'm learning why everyone loves Frederick Bachman's writing. I think it's because, and I'm trying to find out a way to explain this, he talks about very boring, mundane things, and he uses very everyday stuff to completely flesh out a character, but they feel so much more real to us because he uses very simple metaphors and things to explain the characters. Does that make sense? Like, we're watching, for example, one guy, Peter, who is the general manager and the dad to Leo and Maya. We are watching him scramble around in the morning trying to find his car keys to drive to work. He runs into the kitchen and we see Ava, who is a best friend of Maya, who is making a breakfast smoothie, and it's clear that Ava has stayed the night, which gives you background on her family because she doesn't like her family life, which is why she stays at Peter and Kira's house all the time with her friend. He's looking for his keys, right? Then we switch to Kira's POV. Kira has the keys, and just the interaction about the keys shows you a lot about their relationship, being married for a long time and having difficulties but also still loving each other, things like that. Small, mundane, everyday tasks that just symbolize so much more about each character, and they tell you so much more about them than just saying Peter's mind is frazzled and Ava doesn't like her parents. Like, instead of saying that, Frederick uses underlying messages and metaphors, but with simple dialogue, simple vocabulary, simple actions to portray that to you, if that makes sense. So I think that everyone falls in love with this book because the characters seem like real people and their problems seem so realistic. Like, I've read some of these characters and thought, like, that reminds me of this person, or that reminds me of myself, or, you know, I can see 100% everyone's perspective in a situation. Even if I think someone is wrong, I get why they think that because we are in their head, and then we're in the opposing person's head 3 seconds later reading their point of view, if that makes sense. It's just like very interesting how he crafts this story, very different from anyone I've ever read before, so I really appreciate that as a reader, that he has a really distinctive writing style, and I think that's going to make me really enjoy the rest of this book. That being said, there is a plot point in this book that I think has been spoiled to me, so I'm like honestly just waiting in anxious anticipation for that plot twist to happen because it is not a good thing in any way, shape, or form, and I'm nervous about it. But the audiobook is helping me get through. Now, tomorrow is the last day of the month. Are we going to finish this by then? I'm 40%, so I'm here. I don't know, but I'm filming my wrap up tomorrow afternoon, and this might not make it in that video. So this may have to be pushed to the first couple days of May. We'll see. We'll see. It's really too dark in here to be filming a clip right now. It's 8 o'clock, the sun is setting, but I just finished Beartown 2 seconds ago, and we're already 3 days into May, so I figured I would probably end this vlog here and tell you my final thoughts about this book, literally minutes after finishing it. Honestly, I feel quite numb with this whole story. This story is very, very heartbreaking. I don't really know if I want to do a spoiler section because I will yap forever. But so many of these characters in this book, number one, they're the characters that like I just love and I have so much emotion for, and I need them all to have like a big hug and like just support, you know? And then this other section of characters that I just absolutely despise. But I would say a majority of characters fall in this middle zone where a lot of things that they do, I understand it. They're doing it for the good of the people, they're doing it for their loved ones, like I understand, but they also make so many flaws. I'm gonna just say like names randomly because if you haven't read the book, you won't know whose people are, but I'm thinking of David, very flawed, but also I see his point of view on some, not all, but some things. I think of Bobo, I think of Kevin's mom, I think of Peter. I don't know, there's just like so many characters in here that are just in a middle zone, and that's what makes this story so realistic. Not only is it a very true to life story about something that would happen, probably does happen all the time, so unfortunate that it does. This is such a terrible, terrible situation, but the truth is that so many people get away with things that they really don't deserve to, and the people, the victims especially, are the ones that have to suffer the consequences, and that's just heartbreaking. But what makes this even more heartbreaking is the way that Frederick Bachman writes this book. Is he does it with a numbness to the type of writing. He says things plain and straight. There's some metaphors, but it's very simple writing. It's so realistic that it really cuts to the bone. And I felt sad throughout the majority of this, but I wasn't crying because the writing style is just so numb. It's like we've accepted that this terrible fate is something that happens and it's true. Almost like I'm mourning this story, if that makes sense, as I'm reading it, because that's how the book is written, in my opinion. Really fantastically done. I admit it did take me a couple days to get through this book, longer than I wanted to, because I made a fatal mistake and started Game of Thrones, and my life has been taken over by that show a little bit, so I took a day or two off from reading, and getting back into it was not easy because this is not an easy book to read. It's not like a fun little romance book, this is like dark, deep problems, hard topics, but I'm glad that I read it. I'm glad that I have it. I'm glad that I finished it, and I think this is a book that everyone, if you can look at the trigger warnings and are okay with it, should read at least once in their life. I think the message is so strong. I think the characters are so complicated, and I think there is just way more to this book than a village about hockey, which is what everyone describes it as. So if you have the chance to pick this up and you haven't already, please do. I think I'm going to settle with a 4-star, because again, it's not like my favorite genre ever. It's not giving me that 5-star feeling, but for what it was, a literary fiction about a really realistic story with really complex characters, Frederick Bachman wrote that story so well. And there's one little bit at the end, I shed like one single tear with Benji. Benji's my favorite. I love Benji. I also love Amit. They're like my 2 favorites. And also Anna. I may have called her Ava earlier in this vlog, but also Anna. And of course Maya, my love, and Kira. There are a lot of characters here that I really love, but Benji is my favorite. And yeah, anyway, I need to go to bed. I need to end this incredibly long vlog, but yeah, this was a 4-star. That ends my April TBR. Done a couple days after April ended, but I completed it, so there's that. By the time you're seeing this, my April wrap-up was posted last week, so if you want to see my thoughts on the rest of the books that I read in April, including the rest of my TBR, go check out that video. I'll have it linked right here on the screen. Subscribe as always. I love you so much, and I will see you next week for a new reading vlog.